Hello and welcome to another Songbox session where we have the opportunity to share with you a conversation with people we know around the music industry from around the world. Really interesting people who have led very interesting lives and careers throughout the music industry. And got a real treat for you on this show where a Songbox member who's been with us a long time and has a very kind of specific role in the music industry. And she is a very interesting person who's lived a life for sure, and has had decades long career in the music industry. We will be speaking with Shar'n Clark of Shake 'Em Up Music, who are based in Nashville, though Shar'n is not a Nashville native. She's originally from Oregon via Pennsylvania and more than half the states in the USA she has resided in, and is extremely knowledgeable in music, but a particular area of music, the most important thing, the song. Shar'n has collaborated with a dynamic and diverse roster of artists across genres: the Bellamy Brothers, Ronnie Millsap, Rocky Lynn, Mitchell Tenpenny, John Byron. The list is very, very long, and I'm sure Shar'n will touch on that during the course of our conversation. And a world of experience in music clearance and music in film. And the term song plugging is something you'll get a bit familiar with, which isn't necessarily record plugging, where certainly in the UK you'd be familiar with that as trying to get your song played on the radio or into a playlist. Song plugging is a bit more nuanced than that, and I'll leave Shar'n to explain more about it. But let's move on and get things underway by welcoming Shar'n to the program. It's fantastic to have you with us today. Thank you for your time. You are in Nashville right now.
I am in Nashville right now, and thank you for having me. What a treat. I am so excited to be a part of this today
You're
and share a little bit of knowledge. I don't know about much, but we'll do my best.
I, I suspect you have a lot of knowledge, Shar'n, because I have looked at your website. We've had a conversation before. You know, your list of credits is very, very long, and your knowledge is very, very, very deep as well. So there's a lot of things: song plugging, publishing, music supervision, that we'd like to kind of cover. And I think it'd be good to set the scene with how things all started and kind of understand your career in the music industry, and then let's get into some specifics later on around publishing and plugging and placement and all of those nuances. So let's go on a little journey here, because I mentioned at the start, you've lived in over half the states in the USA, and you started as an artist, and you've worn many hats in the industry, including tour manager, promoter, and I read you've even been a bus driver for a
I
bit.
have.
So where did it begin? Where did it begin for you?
Well, it started a long time ago. I started as an artist, where parents were very supportive in talking, going and playing at churches and going and playing at different little venues. I mean, I played at thrift shops. I played in some very interesting places, but I always sang other people's music.
Uh-huh.
I never was a writer until later on down the road. And then my family moved from Pennsylvania, as you said earlier. I was from Pennsylvania to Oregon. My family moved to Washington State. I did some real work, not in the music industry, but always played guitar, always sang.
No.
And so that was something that I really, really wanted to pursue. I moved to Oregon and how I got here to Nashville, I moved to Oregon because there was an artist that I was doing some work with. He decided that I had a brain for helping other people. And so I moved to Oregon to help him. And I thought, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm singing now. I'm part of the band.
Yeah.
So then I decided, okay, if I'm really serious, I'm moving to Nashville. And via playing at different clubs and stuff while I was in Oregon, I met a record executive, and he actually signed me to a label.
Wow.
Um, um, at this podunk place. He happened to be in Oregon vacationing and heard me sing and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And only to find out that that executive was probably not legit.
Oh.
And
As can happen
then
in the music industry.
it does. And so it taught me a lot right at the beginning, to really do some investigating before you dot some T's and,
Yeah.
dot the I's and cross the T's. But I moved to Nashville thinking this was what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to be. Was an artist. And I came down here and I started playing different clubs, but soon recognized that a lot of people wanted to hear original music
Mm.
and not other people's music, because those people were actually having, they were having successes already and they wanted to hear original music. And I wasn't a songwriter. So while I was on the label, I made the decision to say, okay, no, I don't need this. I don't want to be in the spotlight. That wasn't where my heart was. And so I decided to help other people's dreams come true. And how do I do that? And so I met a gentleman who changed my life. His name was Bob Malloy
Right.
from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. And he said, you have a gift for listening to music, and you should probably finish your degree, or finish one of the many degrees I have. Finish this degree in music business and learn what the industry was about.
Very
Because
good.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
you know. And so Bob Malloy, I enrolled at Belmont University, worked at Belmont, did admissions for the music business program, worked in that program for 2 years, finished my degree, and I went to school with Brad Paisley and Josh Turner and names that you would recognize, Kelly
Yeah.
Lovelace, and all these phenomenal songwriters and music producers that you hear now on the radio. I was lucky enough to meet them and go to school with them. But I was on the 20-year program, so I was everybody's mom.
Yeah.
I was long past my time of going to college. And so I did that, and got to meet these people. And there was one teacher I took classes from, and his name was James Elliott, and he taught music publishing, and he also taught publicity at the
Oh,
same time. And he said to me, I have an ear for songs. You need to do song plugging. And I'm like, what is that?
yeah.
And he said, you can tell a good song and a great song, the difference between a good song and a great song. You can also tell the difference about where the song, where do I go from here? And
It's not like a few questions there. So you're in, college, university, meeting, you're listening all the time, you're understanding the difference, or you're seeing and hearing the difference between a bad song, an okay song, a good song, a great song, without necessarily getting into the science of it, because we'll do that a little later in the conversation. But how would you quickly define the difference between a good and a great song?
whether you've heard the lyric before,
Huh.
if you're writing a song that you're just doing another twist, Everybody loves their parents. Everybody loves, maybe going out and drinking and having a beer. Everybody does that. But if you make a twist on it, you find another way to say the same thing, but don't say it the same way as everybody else.
So it's very much the lyric, the lyrics, the story, the flow, and where you think it's going, or whether you've no idea where it's going.
Yes, exactly. You want to be surprised in
Yeah,
a song. You want to be surprised. If a song, I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but a song sometimes, if it starts out and you're talking about um, going out to a bar and, and why are you at the bar? It's usually a breakup, lost love,
yeah,
maybe going out and hanging with some friends. And then the chorus is like, okay, I'm out partying, I'm gonna go out and, do whatever. And then there's nothing at the end. There's nothing at like the second verse or the bridge to why did you go out? Why did you go
yeah.
out and party and why, tell me the reason why you're out there,
Yeah,
but
what
make
you've
me
got, the story's got
feel
to have
it.
a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's got to make sense, and it's got to surprise and delight at the same time.
Right. So if
Gotcha.
you can do that in a song, and no matter what you're writing about, don't write about, you know, what seems familiar, that what you're hearing on radio. Write
Yeah,
something different. Don't that's to me.
absolutely got it. Well, you're in Nashville. You've gone through, various jobs in the industry. You've gone back to learn your trade in college, and you start a business, Shake 'em Up Music. And how did the business start? How did that come to life?
It was kind of a twofold kind of thing. I was working, still working at Belmont, and then I got hired at a small record label
Hmm.
and was working for the label, just doing odds and ends things. But listen, still people were pitching me songs or having me listen to songs and what they were writing. Because I would go to writers' nights all the time. And in
Ah,
Nashville, they're everywhere.
hmm.
You can go anywhere and hear writers'
Yep.
nights. And so songwriters were playing me songs and stuff, and they were saying, well, what can you do with this? What can you do with this? And while I was at the record label, I happened to be in a car accident.
Oh.
And so then it was trying to decide what I was going to do because I was going to be off work for about a week. And the label decided that I wasn't dependable enough. And so they let me go.
Yeah,
Because after I was under, some medical treatment, and I thought, okay, that means I'm dependent on somebody else in this
yeah,
industry. And I said, okay, I have 6 weeks to put a plan together before the industry reopens because it was during the holidays.
right.
And it was like, okay, I have 6 weeks to put a plan together on what I'm going to do. And I said, I like songs. I'm going to do this. And so January 2nd of 1999, I hung my moniker for Shake 'em Up Music and said, okay, come hell or high water, I'm gonna do this. And just hoped somebody songwriters believed in me enough and that I had enough connections in the industry to actually make it work.
Well,
So
26 years later, I think you've more than proven right that you have
yes.
what it takes to run and grow your business and to support and push songwriters. Um, what did those early days in publishing and song plugging teach you about the music industry that artists maybe overlook sometimes?
I think one of the things that we as an artist that they overlook is you be nice to everybody. Because you don't know where they're gonna land in the industry. Um, how Shake 'em Up Music, the name Shake 'em Up Music, came into play. I was at a music industry function, and I had a friend of mine sitting next to me, and nobody was talking. Everybody was waiting for the panel to come up to the screen. Nobody was talking to each other. They were all just sitting there waiting. And I stood up and I said, I just turned around to everybody. I was in like one of the first rows, and I just turned around to everybody going, "Hi, I'm Shar'n. Who are you?"
Yeah.
And my friend from Houston, who happened to be sitting next to me, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you just shake things up. You just, you just shake things up." And so the name came from that. And I met so many producers and so many writers and so many up and coming artists at music industry functions because I was not quiet. I
Yeah.
consider myself a shy person, but
But
I know that's hard to
importantly,
believe.
you showed up, right? That's probably one of the key lessons. Absolutely be a good person, and certainly be nice to everyone. Absolutely. And not just the music industry, a trait for life, but showing up makes a massive difference as well, especially in the music industry, at all stages, the beginning, the middle, even towards later in your career. Showing up is really, really important. For someone dreaming maybe of getting their music onto radio or in a film or synced on TV or whatever. It's never easy. There's no guarantees. But what kind of mindset do they need to kind of to get that recognition of their song?
Well, it's kind of twofold.
Hmm.
I think the first mindset is that you have to be true to yourself. You have to have the no quit attitude, can do attitude. And the word no should not scare you.
Yes, that's great
It
advice.
it should it should elevate you to, why am I hearing no? What is it that I need to change just a little bit? You still need to be authentic to yourself about who you are as an artist. And don't chase someone else's dream. It- Chase your own dream. Those are key things that I feel as an artist trying to make it. But um, don't be open to, if you play your music for somebody, be open to someone's opinion.
Yeah.
Just take it with a grain of salt, whatever it is. It's your creative birth as a songwriter. It's your creative birth as an artist of who you are. So listen, and then take the bits and pieces that you think that you can use to improve. But always be true to who you are and always have a can-do attitude.
Yes.
Um,
It's great advice for music and for life, but great advice. And you know, everyone's got an opinion, right? But they're not facts. They're just opinions. And as you said, take what you need from it, and forget the rest of it, and keep moving. But always welcome that feedback, and don't be scared of it, right? Um,
right.
when you do play your music for people, or whether you did as an artist, or whether you're working with your artists and you're playing music and you're moving it around and things like that, what advice would you give artists who, yeah, they're looking for feedback, but when they're writing a song, and certainly when they're in the early stages of it, and maybe it's going to be a great song because it's a great story, like we spoke about earlier, but
Right.
what would be your view or even your advice on how they should protect their work and stay creatively focused? And what I mean by that is that they're willing to allow people to hear their work to maybe gain some feedback and stay focused on that song, and not maybe get sidetracked or misdirected by that feedback, or even worse, be overly protective that they don't even want to share the song with someone.
Yeah, there was a early on, one of the things that I learned was that um the a writer is so fearful of playing their music in front of somebody because they think somebody's going to steal the idea.
Yeah.
And but it's you have to look at it too, is that you want them to hear the song so that you can get feedback to see how you can be a better writer or how you can interpret the song maybe just a little bit different. Um, Copyrights exist once you put it in a tangible form, the initial copyright. So make sure you write the date that you created the song on your lyric, or if you're singing into your phone to get a work tape done, um, date it,
Yeah.
because that already starts the process. And if you're not a member of a PRO, join a PRO, a performing rights organization. It's PRS, am I correct? In the
Yes, you are correct.
UK?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Performing Rights
Um,
Society. Correct.
right. And or if you're in the States, or find out, the United States, we're a little overzealous. We have three, well, four now, PROs. But look into joining a PRO and how you can get established through a PRO, because a PRO is going to help you
Absolutely.
grow.
They're there to
They're
help,
going to
not to
make
hinder.
introductions for you.
Yeah.
They're gonna help you protect. And once you register your song, it's another date.
Yeah. It's great advice. And, I would, it would be foolish of me not to mention that, services like Songbox help in that process as well, of getting it down as a demo, getting a date on it, and also tracking communications and things like that. But not just Songbox, you know, it's a key tool, but just getting your song registered is just one of the most obvious things. And sometimes, you know what? I'm surprised and not surprised even these days that you meet artists who are just starting out and they haven't registered anything, and they don't think of it in that way, and or they overly rely on their people to do it for them later down the line. But
I
sorry.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I want to put in definitely a plug for Songbox because it's changed my life.
Well, I have a
And song
specific
plugging.
I have a specific question in my head about how you use songboxes, because we're I want to kind of get into some of the specifics of how you do what you do, and how you even work around Nashville, which is, arguably the center of the world for songwriting in many respects. But just on a song, just a thought that hit me. Nashville, famous for country, obviously, Atlanta for hip hop, and you got cities famous for music and genres the world over. But a song is a song. So, and you've worked across multiple genres. What would you say is the one universal thing every great successful song has in your view?
Wow, what a great question. Let me think on that one for just 1 second. Um, I I think it one of the things is it has to stand out. And standing out means it has a story that's unique to itself. I know this sounds a little redundant or what, but the key thing is that it makes sense. It makes sense melodically.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an instrumental piece, make sure you have, I feel that a song instrumentally wise, as an instrumental piece, um, has to have a beginning, middle, end as well. But every song has to have a climactic point.
Yeah.
What is making it unique? What is bringing that to its highest potential? And in a lot of songs, they fall short just a little. I have an organization that I do a lot of single song agreement or single song critiques for.
Huh?
Song tuner is what it is.
Mhm.
And I tell them what I'm looking for. and people can send me songs. And it's like the same thing. They fall into, they're missing just one element, where the song is not quite there. They've fallen short by using the same rhyme scheme, or
Yeah.
using the same lyric to rhyme. So like if you're gonna rhyme the word love you, and you use you, and then the next line you use the word you,
Yeah, I know what you
and
mean.
it's
Yeah.
like, come up with something new.
Yeah. That is, there's your experience and your knowledge showing through, because that could be a very complicated answer that someone would give, but really, kind of profound part of your answer was a song has to make sense, right? I think
Yeah,
that's great advice. And people would say, obviously, well then why don't people always write songs that make sense, right? Because they don't. But
exactly.
but it's not just making sense by itself. As you said, it's got to have this launch pad where it can you know it can blast off, or it can make a leap, or it can peak at some point. It's got to have a really good payoff. And a lot of songs that are just, well, they're not great songs, they fall short. They don't have that climactic element in the story of the song that really, I would say, gets into people's heads, and gets into their imagination of what they're hearing. So yeah, I think that's great. A song absolutely has to make sense, and
Earworms.
yeah, earworms, and it's got to take you somewhere. It's got to take you somewhere. So that leads me into some specifics here, right? Because you know people love learning, and you talk about the songwriting workshops that are just all over Nashville, morning, noon, and night. Having been in the city, amazing experience. Would recommend Nashville to anyone and everyone with a passing interest in music. It is beautiful, and it's a fantastic city to get around. And it is, if you love music, you will love Nashville. It's amazing. So, with all of that going on, let's get into some specifics, how to make your music count. And you are so knowledgeable on publishing, placement, and song plugging. So when we talk about song plugging, we're not necessarily talking about even a finished song, or an actual, a track, a fully um, produced piece of music. It could just be the song itself, right?
Correct.
So, what does that really involve, song plugging? Because in some way, it's a bit of a term that was kind of new on me, and then I understood what it was, and I was like, interesting. What's the market like for that? Because I know what the market is like for record plugging, or track plugging, or album plugging, right? But tell me about song plugging and why it's crucial. And maybe it's just crucial in certain industries, but why?
No, I think, well, song plugging is in its own right. It's about the song. There's a difference. You become a carrier for the creative work, as opposed to being the element of making that creative work come forward. So as a song, first, we wouldn't have anything to hum. We wouldn't have anything to whistle. We wouldn't have anything to, invade our minds, or help us feel for an emotion that we're happen to be going through. If we're going through a bad breakup, or we're having a happy time, it all boils down to the song first. And so song plugging, that's where that is at, versus an artist who has already created something, and they're trying to get heard on the radio. They're trying to get heard on playlists. They're trying to get their music heard. But you can't have that unless you have a song.
Yeah.
You can't get it, if the song's not good, you're not going to get played. So it all boils down to the song. The one thing we have in Nashville, which a lot of people in a lot of other cities, to my knowledge, is that we encourage co-writing.
Mm,
Co-writing is huge. A lot of people solo write and they're producers and they write their own lyrics and
yeah.
everything. That's all great and wonderful, but having a co-writer kind of is somebody who uh, is your editor. You edit each other.
Yeah.
You make the strong a little bit better.
You check
So
and challenge. Yeah.
yeah, never be afraid to be open to that, whether you collaborate with a producer or you collaborate with a lyricist. Never be afraid to open yourself up. Don't be closed to just I'm going to do it all myself. I'm going to
Yeah.
do.
Good advice. Great advice. And actually, co-writing is absolutely a big thing in Nashville. And I think obviously a lot of artists co-write, but some songwriters should seriously consider finding that co-writer to give them that and bring that check and challenge. I think that, really good insight. On song plugging specifically, would I be right in saying that sometimes someone might write a great song, there's no music to it, it's just the lyrics, it's the story. By itself, this naked song, all alone on the piece of paper. Would you ever take that and plug it to maybe an artist or even a composer or a producer? Would you ever just take the song at its core, the lyrics, the words on the page, and plug that?
Personally, as a song plugger, I can't do anything with half of a song because a
Mhm.
song comes in two pieces, melody and lyric, or melody. Melody stands out. Composer stands out because it can be an instrumental piece. A lyric is a little bit tougher for just a lyric. Um, de- Depending, like a lot of song pluggers won't look at anything that's not a full piece.
Okay.
Um, I have one of the first things I do when I talk to a potential client or a songwriter that I'm going to work with, I say, what's your strong point? Are you a lyricist or are you a composer? What do you feel your biggest strength is? Because that will allow me to see who I might be able to have them collaborate with. If I have somebody who seems to be the melody guy and seems to come up with melodies, but struggles a little bit with his lyrics, and I can hear that after many years, I know if if they're lying to me or not. Oh yeah, I can write lyrics. No, I don't
So
think
you
so.
will join the dots effectively. You will take this person across town with that person there, and because the melody, the lyrics, whatever, and you will stick them together, and sometimes they will come up with a great song.
Right. Yeah, that is something that I do on occasions, if somebody comes to me and I see a good, especially if I see a good lyric,
Hmm.
I really want to find a story that hasn't been told
Yeah,
or a story that makes me feel something. I want to see it completed.
yeah, that makes great sense. And I'm going to come back to that point shortly, but that triggered a thought about, what key things should songwriters prepare for before they approach a publisher or even a music supervisor? And I know you would school them on this, right? But that's why I'm asking the question. How would you school a songwriter before they try to pitch the publisher or the music supervisor?
Have all their dot, have everything in a row. I mean, no key things is to have your lyrics in place. Be organized. So have your lyrics in place. Have a at least a good demo and or of your representation of your
Yeah.
song. You only get one shot. So if you're coming in now in the old times, when I first started in I call it the old times. When I first started in the industry, people would come and play for me to see whether or not I wanted to represent them as a
Oh,
writer. So they would come
right.
in with their guitar, their
Yeah.
keyboard, and play me their songs, and I'm going, that kind of thing. Well, then, unfortunately, we were all hit with COVID,
Yeah.
and that changed. That changed the industry on a lot of levels because the doors are not open
No.
as much anymore. And so when you're approaching uh, a song plugger or a publishing company or even a record label, make sure you have all of your stuff is organized and then you have 3 songs that represent who you are.
Ah, 3 songs who represent.
If you go, you know, but have if they listen to the 3 songs and they want to hear more, have at least another 3 more in your back pocket. But
Gotcha.
you only have one shot at making a first impression. And if, and the one of the big things is somebody coming in cocky. And I be sure, be confident. But
Don't be
chances
cocky.
are you're not coming in with the greatest song ever.
Yeah.
I've heard
Just
that
because it
line
was.
many times.
I bet. I bet. Right.
This is the
Everyone.
best song you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Um, so the key thing is to be confident, but make sure you have the goods and know the difference of when you need a song plugger versus when you need a publisher.
Oh, yeah.
There's a difference.
There's a big difference. In fact,
There's a
and
big difference.
let's come on to that in a moment. But you mentioned earlier how Songbox has really helped you, and you're just speaking there specifically about have your ducks in a row and be ready. Your press kit, your organized assets, and be professional and make sure you give a good account of yourself. And I suppose that's what we do, right? For Michael, founder of Songbox, myself, co-founder Brian, like we're music people. We're not finance people. We're not necessarily tech people, although we are technical. We're music people. We're music industry people as well. So we think about how things work in the music business and how they should come across, and that's kind of how we develop Songbox, and also with people's feedback, like your own and many other artists and producers who use the platform. But when you found Songbox, you said it changed how you work, and it feels like how you work now makes use of a lot of the Songbox features, right? Or what was it that kind of going digital, maybe, rather than having sitting in live sessions? What has that changed for you, and even changed for the artists you represent?
Well, the one thing that a couple of things that changed. When I first started song plugging, you actually had one-on-one appointments
Yeah.
and you would play. I mean, I go back to cassette tapes. So when I first started, it was cassette tapes and CDs and stuff. And you would get an appointment with an A&R person or
Yeah.
a label or a producer or even the artist directly. And you would get immediate feedback because you could see on their face whether or not they liked the song or not.
Yeah.
Whether they said it or not, you knew
You
immediately
knew.
whether or not they were going to stop it.
Yeah.
You know, I have what I've got to tell you the story. One of my first pitch sessions that I was pitching to the artist for Montgomery Gentry at the time. And I knew this person that I was representing told me that they wouldn't work with me anymore if I didn't pitch this song. And I'm like, well, it's going to offend the person that I'm pitching it to. I'm not sure I want to pitch this song. And said, nope. So I felt like I was under the gun. I had to
Yeah.
play the song. So I played the song, 3 lines into the song,
Oh.
and the guy stops it
Yeah.
the A&R person stops it and says, okay, I don't want to see you again. And
Wow.
I'm like, oh man. So I went and I immediately said, okay, we're not working together anymore. You know, I can't work under this kind of a situation.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot because I, as a song plugger, I have to do my homework not only for who the artist that I'm pitching songs to or the movie I'm pitching to,
Yeah.
but also about who I'm pitching to.
Yeah. Totally.
Not so, finding out who's their favorite team, who, are they sports people? Are they, do they have a favorite charity that they're supporting? Or, find out something that you can actually have a conversation with to start the dialogue. So, with all that being said, after COVID hit, appointments, in-person appointments stopped.
Yeah.
And, and it few and far between. And so then there were people wanting MP3s. You pitched me an MP3, but then they found out they had to download them to hear them, and which became very cumbersome and it took a long time. And so they wanted to streamline it. So then then all of a sudden links were born. There were Box and Dropbox where you could actually, or SoundCloud,
Yeah.
where you could actually create links for your music. And that was fine, but you never knew. At
Yeah.
least when
Yeah.
you had an appointment, you knew immediately whether
Yeah.
they liked the song or not. Then I found Songbox, and Songbox tells me, gives me notifications that somebody's listened to the song or they viewed the song, um, and which makes it's like earth shattering to me. And because now I know if they've listened to it, especially if I'm pitching to somebody in Nashville, and then the next time I look on the stats and it tells me that somebody's in New Mexico,
Yeah.
that gives me hope that they forwarded it on to their
Yeah.
artist.
Yeah. And
Or
you're onto something, maybe.
yeah. And so it's like, oh wow. But the other thing that Songbox does, that the other links don't do, is how far into the song they listened.
That's right. Yeah.
So for me as a song plugger, if I'm listening to a song and I'm trying to think of who I'm going to pitch, and all of a sudden that writer is like, yes, this is what it is. And I'm going, yeah, but this line really needs to be tweaked. All right, a songwriter has given birth to this song. They're not really going to listen to me too much. I mean,
Yeah.
they are, but they're not. So Songbox is great because it shows me how far into the song they listened
Yeah.
and when they stopped.
Yeah.
So if they're stopping on that line,
Yeah. It's good insight, right? And it's like watching. It's like an alternative way of watching the body language of the producer or supervisor, whoever's in the room that you're trying to pitch that song to. Um, you mentioned earlier
exactly.
a little thing, and just kind of it'd be really interesting to get your quick take on this. You said an artist needs to know sometimes when they need a song plugger or when they need a publisher. What when did it what is the distinction when an artist needs one or the other?
A publisher will help guide you in writing and help you develop your craft. A song plugger is already hoping that you've honed your skills
Yeah.
enough that what you're giving them is marketable,
Yeah.
is 100% marketable. Where a publisher will help you develop your skills. They'll set you, if they feel like you need an editor, and so they'll set you with co-writers, or they'll set you with producers, or they'll set you with a other team of people, to help nurture your craft.
So, again for the artist, and this is why, everybody in life needs help, Shar'n. Everybody. We can always be learning. And artists always need help as well. Yes, it's their art and it's their craft and it's absolutely going to be what they want to do, but around that they need some help. And as you said, a good publisher will will put them on the right course, and a good song plugger will put them on the right course, but they're distinctly quite kind of, different things. So an artist knowing where they are on their own creative development and knowing who they should be working with at any point in time is that self-awareness, I suppose, is obviously very valuable um, to the artist. And obviously, if you thought an artist was maybe too early stage in their songwriting capabilities, you would probably nudge them on to people who will help develop them. Would that be right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
which makes
Correct.
total sense. And also artists who maybe are experienced and mature enough, but they just haven't made that leap into getting their music out because maybe they're not confident enough or whatever. You would give them a little shake and tell them, "Come on, let's go and get this song plugged," right?
Right. The one of the things is that your music isn't going to get heard if it's in your closet.
Correct. Correct.
So
Exactly.
you have to take a chance.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, you have to take a chance. And one of the other things, I've been working with this one writer artist for 30 years, and he and I've been together and have gone through the trenches
Right.
um, together. And the thing that he knew was he needed a team to help him pursue what he was doing.
Yeah.
He could be the artist, he could be the writer, but he found the team, the manager, now he has his own record label, but the label at the time when he was signed to a label, and what label would work the best for him, um and then who could run it, who could pitch his songs, and
Yeah.
who could take care of the business of his music, and being I also not only do I song plug, but I also do the admin side. I'm a rare commodity here in
Yeah.
Nashville
Well, that
because
that is a very valuable commodity because you said that, take care of the business of your music, and that is so often overlooked or even misunderstood, or worse, um, you know, not even considered by artists. And I think that's a great tip. And you've given some fantastic tips, Shar'n, on this program for up and coming songwriters and artists. Shar'n, it's been fantastic hearing you speak, and you truly are an experienced, knowledgeable um, person in this field, and a real veteran of it, having just spent your last 26 years in Nashville, in the trenches, pushing songs forward, and your company Shake 'em Up Music. That's what you do. You're the founder of that business. Before you go, though, if you could give one or two small but powerful tips to a songwriter today in 2025 to increase their chance of success, what would you say the one or two most important things to know or to do would be for that songwriter?
I may have three
Oh,
ideas. Okay.
wow.
Organization. Organize yourself. Make sure that you have, in the industry, it's called metadata.
Yes.
But make sure you have your metadata on order. If you're a co-writer, make sure you have their publishing information, your publishing information, your PROs.
Yeah.
Be organized. Make sure you have your lyrics. If you're a lyric writer with another, make sure you have your lyrics available and everything together. Your song is complete. Your song would be complete with the lyric and the instrumental
Yeah. Be
part.
organized with your data. Great tip.
Right. Yeah. Be organized with your data. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't follow. I there. I use country because country's where I live.
Yeah.
So don't be a Blake Shelton because he gets a little confused about who he is from 1 minute to the next. Don't try to follow the trend. Don't follow the trend. Be true, be unique, be authentic. And
Fantastic. Fantastic.
music supervisors are going to know that too.
Yeah.
In film and TV, they're going to know whether or not you're trying to face the other. And then one of the key things, do your research.
Brilliant. Oh, yes.
Do your research. Know who you're approaching. Don't get ripped off like I did when I first started in this industry.
It's a very common story that.
Yes. Do your research. Be who you are, be authentic, be organized, and come to the table fully prepared to whatever it is. If you're going to hear the word no, or if you're going to hear the word yes, and we're going to hear forward. But whatever that answer is that you get when you move forward, it's going to direct you your next path. So just be open to whatever you hear.
That is sage advice from Shar'n Clark, founder of Shake 'em Up Music. Be organized, be yourself, and do your research. What a fantastic advice, Shar'n. And listen, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have enjoyed this so much.
So have I, and I hope everyone listening and watching does as well. A lot of great insights from someone who knows absolutely what they're talking about and knows what they're listening to as well. Shar'n, thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody listening. I wish you all the best.
And very kind. Thank you, Shar'n.
Good night.